Josephine, so glad to have you here, and you are on.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I want to thank you for the invitation, and I want to thank Hiram, who's not here tonight, for the for the suggestion that I come in. I live in Calgary, Canada, which is just north of the Dakotas, and it's land which for tens of thousands of years was inhabited and traversed by different indigenous groups, and I would like to name them and acknowledge them: the Piikani, Siksika, Kainai, Nakota, and Tsuut'ina, and thank them for bringing culture and language and poetry to this land. I've been changing my sets as I hear the other poems that are being read and being inspired by them. And I think I'm going to come back to this one. I was going to end with this one, but I think I'm going to start with this one, with the theme of true love. Um, I have 3 children, and my son's getting married this summer. And this is a poem that I wrote for that occasion. It's called The Rooftop. You squeezed the metal frame of the screen, slipped out open window, lay on asphalt shingles to look up at the scattering of stars, the din of deerfoot traffic incessant. I only found out later. That's how things went when you were kids, the secrets you held to your chest, the barriers transgressed, the dreams you dreamt, unbeknownst to me. I should have birthed you in the forest, under bough of ancient cedar. I should have licked from you the vernix, planted your placenta in the cradle of a land. You hear the full moon howl while you are sleeping, are unafraid of spider, unafraid of snake. You paddle on a smooth glassed lake at nightfall. And when you knelt to ask your girl to be your wife, it was in the silence of the snow, in the witness of the mountain. A boy, you climbed onto the rooftop to sleep under the stars. You stitched them one by one to glimmer in the fabric of your life. And I've got another poem about the experience of being a mother. This one was published in a collection by the League of Canadian Poets entitled Leap. And the next poem is in an anthology from Ireland called The Same Page. And it's called A Flick of Blue. And what prompted this poem was I learned that scientists had captured that there's a flash of light that sparks at the moment when a sperm meets an egg and life begins. I knew. I walked from the bed to the bathroom and knew. A life inside my life, a spark within my spark, a flick. Pictured you infinitesimal, then the size of a grain of flaxseed, waving blue in summer breeze, hazelnut in shatterproof shell, apricot, fuzz-covered flesh yielding to slightest touch, grapefruit, sunshine bursting into scent, bursting bubbles inside me weeks before movement, weeks before the first real kick, as unforgettable as the first real kiss. All this before anyone else knew you existed. I've got a poem that I wrote in this house. There used to be a giant spruce outside my window. It's been chopped down, unfortunately, but this one's called Moon At My Window. I see you hiding there beneath, sorry, I'll start again. I see you hiding there behind the pines, waiting to slip out and play your solitary notes on the lines that traverse my night sky. At times, I have imagined whiskey jacks on those same spaces and lines, alighting by day at different times to play their black and white noted arias and symphonies for me. And I'm going to read one off my computer now. It's called A Gentle Pull. My family comes from Sicily. My parents came to Canada after they were married. A gentle pull. There's a few words in Sicilian, and the poem will explain them. Sicilia smiles at me in black and white, my mother freshly engaged, flanked by my father's sisters, skirts flounced high. The smell of earth baking at 43 degrees, colossal shadows cast at the temple of Concordia. Agrigento, founded 600 years before Christ by sailors from Rhodes and Crete. Daedalus and his son, Icarus, the timeless intertwine of history and myth into mystery. Echoes, old names, Girgenti, Agrigentum, Akrakas. We sat in green-gray shade, my sister and me under olive leaf, trunk gnarled by the slow blink of 3,000 years. Mediterraneo, the sea in the middle of the land. When you walk out of water, sun dries sea onto skin so that in each kiss you can taste our salt-sweet origin. One evening in Campania, 10 minutes from town, my cousin, Makushina, asked if I would go with her to get no limone, a lemon. I said si, expecting a car ride. Instead, she led me into the darkening grove, hanging over us like lanterns, firm ripeness of fruits. Sicilia, a twist and a gentle pull. And the next poem is also about Sicily and also about Calgary. In Calgary, we have a wind which will melt the snow, and it's named Chinook, and I'll say why in the poem. And in Sicily, there's a wind called Scirocco, which blows up from the Sahara. So this one's called Lovendo. Lovendo means the wind. At the, at the edge of this prairie, where foothills snuggle up to rocky peaks, wind blows east. Snow eater, say the Salish, winter reprieve, driving mercury from 20 below to 13 above in a day. Our city duvade, bright sky blue under silver arc cloud, Chinook. While there, in a land all but forgotten in time, on an island in the middle of the sea, in the middle of the world, winds blow north, across Saharan immensity, magnifying summer heat, a sheet of red sand gathering, falling like blood across the face of my dreams. Scirocco. The next piece I chose was a friend of mine was putting out an album, and he asked different artists if we would write poems to his lyrics. And the album was called The Paper Motel, and I tried to envision what kind of person would get a room at the Paper Motel. And this one's called If I'm Not There. In days of damned and dimming light, she dealt out jacks, or better. And though regret seemed heaven sent, like storms and snow and driving rain, dawn came despite the weather. Life and fate and light and love, her perfume on your tongue. Come midnight when the land was parched, a lazy clock did start the race, and bones in prison lung. Her hand stretched out at 2 a.m. to smooth a passing wrinkle. Every dream made newborn flesh, and quiet desperation, a warning in eyes twinkle. Her rag curl hair, her ruby lip unraveled on the ground. In days of wine and crumbling stone, this unknown highway traveler will nevermore be found. The following poem was inspired by a prompt. There was a collection of poems that were published posthumously, Leonard Cohen poems, in a collection called The Flame in 2018. And the beginning line of this was, when I wake up into panic, and I was starting to experience anxiety. So I wrote my version of Into Panic. When I wake up into panic, my heart racing, my mind blank, I reach for your slender collection, the first book of my New Testament, open at random, certain that you and the nameless gods of revelation will know what I crave. Like a cigarette, I strike a match to your words, inhale deep, letting the burn light a path to my stone soul. Your voice gravelly smooth, like a hand sliding between silken thighs. Like tulips picked too early, set in tall blue vase. I watch and wait for warmth and water to coax them into bloom. The next two poems are kind of steamy. This one's called Wild Sky. You are electrons, protons. I am sparking off the sun. You are escaping sun's gravity. I am thrown out of atmosphere by rotation. You are hurtling towards Earth. I am thinner at polar caps. You are colliding with my atmosphere. I am igniting into color, into dance. Most of the charged particles deflected by Earth's atmosphere, but when you kiss me, you become my oxygen. You are lights dancing. I am wild sky. And the next was written with a prompt by Ella Zeltzerman. Thank you. Ella Zeltzerman is a poet who lives, I think, either in or close to Edmonton, north of Calgary, and she emigrated to Canada from Russia, and she wrote a poem, and this line captured me. I whisper into your ear so you hear and do not hear. And I call this poem Oblivion, and it was published in England by Constellate magazine. I whisper in your ear and you, I whisper in your ear so you hear and do not hear. Our rhythms fill the pauses in our breath. Rhyme entwines us like a villanelle. In the ruby light of oil lamp, I stand before you loosely, concealed only by the shimmer of a veil. The curves of my country, the rise and the dip and the long, slow valley where the weight and the warmth of your hand once summoned me from sleep. I pour into your glass sweet drops of Lethe. We shed our skin and swim beneath the substance of a dream. I do have quite a few poems that are inspired by dream or in which I explore dream, but I'm not going to go there quite yet. This one is a family story, The Smell of Sawdust. The smell of sawdust on his clothes and in his hair and in his pores, the roughness of his hands, the breadth of his suntanned back, the darkness of his eyes under lashes thick, she pale and fair, hazel eyes, auburn hair. He profound, his proclamations meant to be absolute, she shrill and reigning over us nonetheless. The bathroom he built in the basement of our 3-story house where so many rooms were just for company, just for show. He, my father, a deep pool, she, a rushing torrent, a thunderstorm, and she would hurl words that hurt the air around our ears. So many things unsaid, stories we never learned until we were grown. Her mother dying young, leaving 5 children behind, her father dead or gone, rumors hushed. Her brother taking her in to work in his house. She, boiling water, carried in from village fountain to wash the diapers of his infant child. The letters that my father sent, taken away, hidden by her brother's wife behind the mirror of the dresser. How she became betrothed to another, believing my father had forgotten her. How my father's father and my father's brother went to ask why she wasn't writing back. Those were different times. When I asked why their love was not officially declared before he left to mine the coal heart of Belgium, I was told they were too young. He had no diamond for her finger, no gold, and their promise was to keep them until he could come to claim her as his bride. All of this I never knew, for I was but a child, but some evenings he would sit upon a backless stool in the basement of our house, smelling of planed pine, hands rough with work, fatigue heavy on his shoulders, and she would kneel before him, lift his feet one by one from the basin in which they soaked, wash them, and towel them dry, and he would look upon her softly. And I could feel, but still not comprehend, the ties that went beyond their words. The next one, thank you. The next one is also a family story, and this one is it's about a set, a tea set that my mother-in-law gifted me. The tea set. I opened the box. It wasn't for me, it was for the kids. But which kids, Grandma? And could you have known there would be no room in their lives for bone china? Not while they're deep in forest, 10 kilometers from drop zone, helicoptered in because of fire, planting trees from a belt slung low. A shower, a luxury, no cup of porcelain tea. Not while they are scaling unnamed peaks, snowboard and avalanche pack on their back, canoeing an evening glass lake, life simple and clean, a girlfriend, a black hat. Not while they are gearing down and riding up a mountain on a fat, tired bike, covering their radiant bodies with tattoos and glitter, blue lipstick, feathers and rocks and bones and sticks in their hair. So I served myself a solitary breakfast on this gold-rimmed porcelain, scalloped edge, opalescent turquoise leaves like peacock feathers dropped into the Chinook city, from which the fledglings have fled for the air and the sea and the peaks of BC. You were born in a generation of manicured nails and careful coiffes. No one saw your tears when your husband's plane went down. Like Jackie Kennedy, widowed the week before you, you bore your grief in silence. Photos show only a world of black and whites. And I, in this foothill land I call home, although the last generation is in Ontario and the next on the coast, I swirl to the rim of the cup every day and fall asleep alone. The next poem was inspired by a photograph I have. Thank you. There's a photo of my dad when he was a young man in Belgium before marrying my mom. And he's got one foot on the ground and he's waving on the bike. Bicycle time. In my dream, my father slung one leg over the bicycle frame, turned to wave goodbye, and I knew I was not ready for him to die, not ready to hear the red dread snarl from the blackness outside the circle of lights. When I was a child, my grandfather fashioned me a zigzag set of teeth from an orange peel. I grow old. I grow old. Finalement, je comprends. This might not be the life I want for my last days. I face my fate, and yet, I will not do any yoga today. I will not write. I will not walk the talcum powder sand of a California beach, or eat a fresh picked peach, or watch the orange ball sink into sky of red black. I will shower, eat my toast, and try to silence the beast in its mangy coat with blood-stained, yellowed teeth, who stands waiting outside the orange glow of light, of life, and beseech him to grant me more time. And I realize I'm running out. I've got only a few minutes left. This one was published in Vallum magazine, which is out of Montreal, and it's called Dreams of the Dead. And this actually is based in true stories. My grandmother is a hydrangea, petals pressed close, she opens in blue splendor. My grandfather, a bull trout, slow moving, waters murky. And what of Alex? In one dream, the Ficus benjaminus turns to butterflies. His lopsided smile, his bangs flipped to one side, thoughts deep, wings open into poetry. In another dream, beetles and roaches cover the floor. And this morning, lashes fall as I rub sleep from my eyes. I can no longer see myself in the glass. And I will finish with, thank you. I will finish with this one. And again, this one is based in true story. It's called, it's got a long title. No one in my family has died a simple death. My father's grandfather was a wick, the oil in his headlamp igniting when a vein opened in the sulfur mine. 4 men carried his char home to die. My mother's mother was the breath after blowing out a candle. Thick black hair in a high bun, but weak of lungs, no medicine to cure her. My mother's father was a mystery. Is there a gravesite, a church record, a name on a ship's manifest? Fair skin belies his ancestry, freckles, eyes of blue or green like the sea. My father's father was a glass of water crashing to the floor. He died once, but was buried twice. Once in the ground at Mount Pleasant, then later in a drawer in a concrete wall in the old Sicilian style. My father's mother was a plume of smoke. She faded in stages, stroke taking her way, her ability to walk, to eat, to recognize. By the time her heart stopped, I had grieved her 1,000 times. My father is a cat on life 6 or 7, heart attack, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, coal mine lungs, airport collapse, cardiac ablation. They cauterized the tissue around his heart, scar not conveying the impulse to live. Now ischemia constricts the vessels in his brain. How are you, he asks. And the kids? And the weather? And the kids? My mother is a wristwatch with broken hands. She tricks death by believing herself invincible, tosses an enchantment of salt onto black ice. We watch her decline, gears and springs seized and stuck, losing her piece by piece. They say you die twice. According to Bansky, once when you stop breathing, the second, the last time someone says your name. Myself, Josephine LoRe. How will I go? Will I fight death or will I walk headlong into that slow-moving river, willow branch above me, swaying in the wind? Thank you.
What a brilliant finish. Wow.
Woo! Thank you very much.
Unmute, ladies and gentlemen. You let her know. Thank you so much. That so I love the family pieces. I just the history and that last piece, boy. My mother was a wristwatch without broken hands. Loved it.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely brilliant.
Incredible. I think you just spawned another 10 family poems in each of us.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.